Hi, and welcome to Meet the Mayor. This is Larry Petraccaro with Dean Dafis, Mayor of Maplewood. And the plan tonight was to talk about the master plan that the township will be putting together for the future, for the changes that we may see, and to make sure that we have the kind of community, the vibrant type of community we'd like to have. That was the plan, and we still should get to that. But as it turns out, I was talking to Dean, and he emailed me that he was running late because he was coming up from Trenton. And I just happened to ask what he was doing for Trenton. He works for the Lieutenant Governor, Sheila Oliver. So I thought perhaps you could tell us a little bit about that, about the organization that you're working for, and what are some of the things that you're trying to do. Maybe we start with that.
Sure. Larry, it's good to be with you again. And happy that people out there are joining us and going to see this. I came back from Trenton. This is a 5-day-a-week thing now. We're back in the office full time. I work for one of the largest state agencies. It's called the Department of Community Affairs, DCA. Most people know it as DCA. And DCA supports all 565 municipalities across the state. It provides housing opportunities. It provides codes and standards support for construction and inspections. It provides grants for opportunities of all kinds. It is literally the network and support system of every town in the state of New Jersey. And Lieutenant Governor Oliver is our commissioner. And I work for the department in the Division of Housing. I run an office called the Office of Eviction Prevention, and I focus on eviction prevention and homelessness prevention policy and programs and services. And that is really a great fit for me. First of all, it's a great fit with my elected duties. The two worlds do often, integrate and overlap. But it's also important to me because I bring my legal skills to the table as a former attorney. Practicing attorney rather, I'm still an attorney, working in housing matters, working in landlord-tenant court, representing people facing eviction, representing people facing foreclosures on their homes. So I bring a lot of that experience to the job. But again, like I said, I focus not on the legal side of things, but mostly on programs and services. How do we expand housing opportunities and housing safety and stability in the state of New Jersey, where we do have a housing crisis? We have a housing crisis because of affordability. We have a housing crisis because of the lack of housing altogether. There isn't enough housing. We're already one of the most densely populated state in the nation. And how do we put all the necessary support systems that need to be there for people to stave off eviction or foreclosure? There's a lot of reasons why people fall behind on their rent. And some of those reasons are not just economic. Certainly, COVID has exacerbated, economic hardship for all of us. And so that has caused an eviction crisis in our state. But there are other things going on as well. There's crisis in households. There's lack of affordable health care. There's emergencies that people can't afford. There's educational support that isn't there, or child care support, and even financial literacy and empowerment, right? Certainly we have a lot of generations. We have several generations that were withheld economic mobility for many, many years. And those folks have been behind since the beginning. And what are we doing to help them, right? So that's what I work on. And it's really, really important to me because when I was younger, before I got my act together in life, I experienced housing insecurity myself. So I know the stigma associated with being houseless, right? Or homeless, as people most commonly refer to it. And there's a lot of stigma, and we have to get rid of that. We focus on a lot of these things here in Maplewood in our community, where we know we have houseless folks. We have students. We're in the high school this evening taping this. We know that we have students here at the high school who are homeless. They stay with friends from couch to couch. They live out of their cars. And it's something that, we need to talk about, be more open about, so that we can remove the stigma and help people and prevent that from happening to other generations of students. One of the things that I've been a big champion about in town, again, the two roles overlapping, is food insecurity. We're very fortunate to have MEND, and other food pantries around here, St. Joe's and Our Lady of Sorrows doing food distribution events, and the Kiwanis Club as well, being very generous with their food distribution events in Maplewood and South Orange. But we also put a community fridge on Springfield Avenue last May, I think I think it was last fall. We were hoping to open in May, but it ended up happening in the fall. It's been about 6 months or so. And the community fridge response has been incredible.
Well, how does that work? Do people put things in or just take things out, or
both?
Okay.
Both. And that's our motto. Take what you need, leave what you can.
Okay.
And it's been terrific. And we use our food pantry partners to ensure that it's constantly stocked. Our health department inspects to make sure that there are no issues, sanitary issues or food issues or health concerns, and our public works department ensures that it's clean and safe. And it's been working out really terrifically. We don't ask any questions. We don't, there's no cameras. We want to fight food insecurity with dignity. And so it's open to all. And there are people who come in from neighboring communities because they know it's there. And that's okay too, because homelessness doesn't have borders.
Now that you brought up a couple of kind of interesting points. It sounds as if perhaps homelessness is a bigger problem than we tend to think of. And certainly housing insecurity. You also mentioned something about one of the reasons might be people don't have the money for an emergency. And I remember there was an article in the Atlantic few years ago, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and the fellow who did the research found that, I forget, it was a large percentage, 80% of the people in the country, for example, couldn't come up with $400 if they needed it.
That's right.
We live in, at least on the surface, what looks like an affluent community, and I think sometimes it might be difficult for us to recognize that there's this much. You don't have to go far. I mean, I told you I help out at a soup kitchen in Newark, and if you want to see housing issues, people who are homeless, clearly some of the people that come for food are homeless. I had an experience similar to what you were talking about with students. This is many years ago, but one of the friends of my son was in that kind of situation. He must have spent half a year with us, something like that. The same sort of thing. So it's not that it's not there, and it's great that you're trying to do something about it. The other thing that you mentioned was that you were involved with all 565 communities in the state of New Jersey. How do you?
Maplewood's still my favorite.
No, but do you identify these in different categories to decide how you and what resources you may need to bring to bear on the problems? And if that's the case, where does Maplewood fit in? If you do that kind of thing. If not, that's fine.
No, for sure. So we do a lot of mapping and data tracking. Where are evictions and foreclosures happening, and what are the demographics of those households, right? Not just geographic demographics, but what is the constituency of the household itself. Oftentimes, we see the highest rates of evictions and foreclosures in BIPOC communities.
What's that, BIPOC?
That means Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And communities who are low income and very low income, right? And what we do is we try to target our resources and programs to them. But COVID completely flipped our script of how we used to do things. Because now we know that even moderate and middle income folks have been affected, have suffered economic hardship that has revealed their lack of financial stability, which inevitably leads to housing stability. You mentioned very correctly that, the majority of people in our country don't have a savings account. They don't have 6 months worth of an emergency laying around. And whatever we may see on the surface of keeping up with the Joneses and making sure the kids are going to all the programs and they have the best clothes and everyone is fitting in the neighborhood and so on and so forth, for a lot of people behind the scenes, there's constant fear and anxiety of loss of their housing. Again, some of the people that have been patronizing our community fridge are homeowners in Maplewood. Yeah. They're not tenants. Yeah, oftentimes there's that stigma, oh, these people are renters and, no, these are also homeowners. And you know what? They're also older adults.
Well, two things I'd like to comment on, and maybe you can comment on my comment. You mentioned two words that I think are kind of critical. One is stigma and the other is dignity. And again, from personal experience, when you recognize the dignity of the people, whether they're that I see, whether they're homeless or just food insecure or whatever, it seems to matter. So I don't know if you would want to maybe expand on whether you feel the same way or not.
Yeah, I think it does matter. And oftentimes, because of pride and other cultural barriers sometimes and other barriers, people are in denial about the situation, the crisis that they might be facing, right? We know this. Mm-hmm. And they wait until the last minute to get help, and oftentimes it's too late. But also our resources are so fragmented. There's like a hodgepodge of solutions out there. And what we're trying to do at the department is, at DCA, what we're trying to do is really truly create a one-stop comprehensive network of resources so that people know, okay, it's like walking to a supermarket, right? This aisle has that, that aisle has this, a one-stop shop so that we can direct people to the support mechanisms that they need. Some people don't need everything, and some people do need everything, A to Z help. So that's what we're trying to do, because oftentimes when you're in crisis, you put up your hands and you say, where do I go? Who do I talk to? And you sort of become paralyzed from actually doing anything to help yourself. And we know that that's really the truth of people living.
I think it makes so much sense to kind of defrag it, if you will, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it makes me think that when we talked with Candace Davenport, that what the health department was doing was trying to take that kind of approach where, you could minimize the effort. And you minimize the effort not necessarily because people can't handle it, but because it doesn't need to be that hard.
Right, right. It's a health and wellness issue. We want a community that's healthy and well, right? And I'm glad you mentioned our health officer, Candace Davenport, because pre-COVID, we were considering not having a Department of Health. A lot of municipalities do not. They've either consolidated with other sister towns or they have health through the county, and that's it. They don't have their own Department of Health. Imagine if we had done that. It's almost too difficult to imagine. How would we have gone through COVID if we didn't have our Department of Health? But, Candace Davenport and the amazing team that we have gone beyond just, working on COVID mitigation and support and talking about like this bigger picture of health and wellness in the community.
And I thought that was a wonderful thing. But we're going to have to take a break. So we're going to have to take a break.
Okay.
So if you'll stay with us, we'll be back in a minute.
Dad, we need to talk. If you're not going to listen to me, who will you listen to?
Jeffrey.
Is that Marcia Gay Harden?
I think so.
You're getting older.
Not that old.
Your brain is changing.
That's what I was saying.
Honey, I've got experience with this. Jeffrey, brain health is all about making the most of your brain as you age.
Really?
Whoa, where did she go?
Learn what you can do to help keep your brain healthy at brainhealth.gov.
Hi, and welcome back to Meet the Mayor. This is Larry Petraccaro with Dean Dafis. And we were going to talk about the master plan. We didn't get very much of it done in the first half, but and I would love to be able to continue that conversation with Dean, but I think we should talk a little bit about the master plan. So, Dean, what is it?
Yeah.
What is the master plan?
Yeah, actually, this is a great segue. We were just talking about housing issues, right? Well, one of the biggest components and elements of a master plan is the town or the city's housing, right? So what is the master plan? The master plan is the blueprint of every city or town. In other words, it is all of the elements that go into the composition of a town. It's your housing, it's your traffic plan, it's your parks and recreation facilities. It's what are you doing for the environment? It's your infrastructure. It's your recreational offerings and your community services. It's all of those things. And we are embarking on a new master plan. So the last time that we did our master plan was in 2008. So more than 10 years ago. So we're way more than overdue. Actually, state law requires every 10 years. We did a re-examination of our master plan, which is not a complete whole new master plan in 2011, I want to say, or maybe it was a little bit later. I don't remember off the top of my head at the moment. But a re-examination is when you look at only one of the elements. So the way I like to explain it to people is that this is a full physical. This is not going to the doctor for one thing. It's everything. And it's an exciting time. So we put together a steering committee to start talking about all of the required elements that go into a master plan. And we went out with a very competitive RFP, a request for proposals, and we went out into the world and we received applications. And we reviewed the applications, and I'm proud to report to you tonight, Larry, right here on the show, that we have a planner selected. BFJ is the company that we will be working with to put together Maplewood's new master plan. So, how do we do that? What does that mean? The number one at the center of putting together a master plan for any city or any town is public engagement. What you do is you create working groups and public meetings and public forums throughout the community with different community groups and different stakeholders so that you can receive their input. You do surveys so that you can receive their input. And then what the planning firm does is it takes all of that information and it puts it into a master plan, which then gets reviewed by the community. The community gets to comment on that through more public hearings until the township or the city or the town, whatever it is, adopts the master plan. So that is, as you can imagine, a comprehensive, ambitious endeavor, and it's going to take us, we're going to start this year, and it's probably going to take us at least through next year to really say that we have engaged with the public fulsomely. We've covered everyone. Seniors got their say, youth got their say, parents and teachers got their say, homeowners, advocates, experts, engineers, everything, because we're going to be looking at our roads, how we travel in town, our transportation, our housing. Where are we with housing? You have some people over here who say, no more housing, too much. We've overburdened our town. We're overtaxing our sewers and our other structures. Then you have people over here who say, we need more housing. We need different kinds of housing. We have our folks who want to age in place, who want to downsize from their homes, and they say, listen, I don't want to go into a rental. My wife and I, or my significant other and I, we want to stay in town. This is the town where we grew up in. This is the town that we built. We're proud of this town, but we want to own a townhouse, right? We don't want to throw away money in a rental. We want something to own. We still want equity. Where are the townhomes opportunities, right? So that's an example of people who say there isn't enough housing. And of course, affordability is the number one hot topic throughout the state. Our taxes are way too high. We are, I think, second or third in the nation after California in having the highest property taxes. And, coincidentally, we're starting our budget hearings on Saturday, this coming weekend, to adopt our 2022 budget for the entire municipality. And this is something that's going to be on our minds as we make decisions about how to spend taxpayer money. And for all of you out there, if you are concerned about taxes in the community and you want to learn how we spend your money and how the sausage is made, tune in this Saturday. We're doing it on Zoom. Go to our township website and look up the Zoom link for the public hearing that is going to be our budget hearings on Saturday, starting at 9 a.m. Get your coffee, get your donut, and get on your laptop and join us. It's not sexy, but that is where we make the important decisions about which roads to pave, infrastructure improvements, and all kinds of capital expenditures with taxpayer money. And where we explain where your taxes go.
Where they go.
Because people think that, all the taxes come back into town. We wish that was the case. But, almost 65 cents of every dollar goes to the school district. Another 25 cents goes to the county.
Yeah.
And whatever is left over comes back to the town. And with that little money, we're supposed to keep everything that everybody relies on, the beauty of our town, with that little budget.
Well, on a practical matter, will there be a link to be able to watch that later if people can't tune in?
Absolutely.
Okay, so they'll be
Absolutely.
They don't have,
Right.
If they tend to wake up at 10 o'clock, they'll still have access to
Absolutely,
the whole
absolutely. But there is an opportunity to be interactive. There's a public speaks portion. People can raise their hands and voice their concerns. And it's a big concern all across North Jersey in particular that has become very unaffordable. And it's something that Governor Murphy is looking at, and state legislators in Trenton. I just told you earlier that I just came back from Trenton.
Yeah, right.
This is a hot topic in the State House. Like, how do we try and give back some money to our taxpayers who are really, really overtaxed? How do we do that? Certainly at the local level, people always stop me and I say, hey, what's your concern? They say, my taxes. Lower my taxes. And I wish I could. I wish I could lower my taxes. Oh my goodness, it's like a second mortgage. But, a lot of it is really not in our control. But we have to be judicious and thoughtful and conservative, frankly, in how we spend the money that does come back to the municipality so that we are prioritizing the major needs.
Well, now, two questions, I guess. The first one is, you mentioned you'll go out, or this BFJ, I guess it is, we'll be trying to get community involvement. How do they go about doing that? And then the other question, which I think is probably maybe the hardest thing of all, is everybody's going to want something, and generally people think that that the township government is there for me,
Right.
for them.
Of course.
And that's not going to happen. But
Right.
So, what's the process by which you prioritize things?
Yes, I think we have to hear from people, and oftentimes when you really are serious about being transparent and engaging the public, there are competing interests, certainly, but often there is a common thread, there is a common denominator, and that is where consensus lies. And not everyone will be happy, of course, and not all the needs will be met, of course, which is why master plan needs to be done every 10 years or so. So, and the needs change in the community. We know we have an aging population, for instance. What are we doing for our seniors in that regard? Beyond senior programming and that light stuff, which is also important, of course, right? But what are we doing for seniors who can't shovel their sidewalks? What are we doing for seniors who can't drive anymore and lack transportation opportunities? What are we doing? Our train station in Maplewood, I'm not very proud of this, is not ADA compliant. How do we fix that? And why not prioritize these needs? But the exciting thing is that for the first time ever, thank you to the Biden administration, there will be federal infrastructure monies passing through the state into municipalities such as ours to cover some of these big ticket items. Because when you're talking about an aging sewer, when you're talking about paving as many roads as you can, when you're talking about creating transportation that doesn't exist, when you're talking about making our train station ADA compliant and accessible to handicapped persons, that's a lot of money, right? We're talking millions of dollars. So, I've attended a couple of webinars and informational sessions with Congresswoman Cheryl and Congressman Payne. Both of them have hosted separate sessions to start educating us about how we can apply for grants and what kinds of projects will be eligible and how we can get to the top of the line, to the head of the line, right? And you bet that I will be a strong advocate for Maplewood to make sure that we get our fair share of these monies. This kind of support for local government has never been available in recent history from the federal government. And it's another example how in this crisis that we're facing politically in our nation, where we are so divided and we can't agree on anything other than disagreeing about everything, and the anxiety and separation and division that causes, it is wonderful and hopeful and empowering to know that our federal government, this federal government, recognizes that government can be a source of good in people's lives, and where it's at is at the local level.
And I assume you'll make sure that whatever money we get from the federal government is going to go into the types of things that you can complete, not operational expenses or anything like that.
No. Yeah, I mean, the way grants work is that, there's a small percentage that goes into administrative costs associated with projects. But yes, that money should go into all of these important elements that are going to be part of our master plan. So actually, while some people have criticized, and fairly so, that we haven't embarked on this earlier, since it's been a while, as it turns out, we got lucky because the timing is perfect. Yeah. Because it's also happening at a time when we might be able to get financial support for some of these important elements.
The master plan then will be integrated with the needs of the community, or the master plan will reflect the needs of the community and what you have to do and how you have to prioritize. Is it possible that there will be new laws or regulations that have to come out of the decisions that you make regarding the direction you want the town to go?
Most certainly. The one thing that comes to mind that's most relevant to new laws is zoning, right? We may have to adjust our zoning to create new opportunities for co-housing, new opportunities for more accessory dwelling units, perhaps allowing single family lots to be more welcoming to more than one family living on the lot. Who knows? I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but these are the kinds of things that will force us to change our zoning. It will also make us look at our code enforcement and our codes and regulations in other ways, right?
Well, I've got to enforce the end of the end of the show, but okay. It sounds like we could keep going, but I think we're going to have to stop. So thank you for joining us on Meet the Mayor, and tune in again next time, and we'll try to actually get to answer more questions for you. Thank you for joining us.